Thank you.
Welcome to Mexico.
Thank you. What an honor. I've never done a speech in the round before, so this is very exciting, and just so many beautiful women. I'm used to speaking when I'm the only woman in the room, so this is amazing. Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. Also want to give a shout out to my amazing assistant, Jesus, somewhere in the audience. Jesus, where are you? Jesus, who is from Mexico and has been my amazing translator this entire time, so thank you. Today, I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm going to start you off with a little bit of a background on who I am, because I don't want anyone leaving this room today thinking, oh, they couldn't get Mark, so we got sloppy seconds. I don't want anyone thinking that, so I'm going to give, you know what, I'm just going to walk. I don't need this chair. In fact, I'm going to just trip over it, so thank you. Then I'm going to walk you through some of my favorite social media sites that we're using. Obviously, Facebook's going to be in there, obviously. And then some of the best trends that I'm seeing. So I think we're going to have a little bit of fun. Now, I graduated from Harvard University. What an obnoxious thing to start a speech with, right? But I have another sibling who did not graduate from there. So it's score one for Randi. Woo! Thank you. Unfortunately, that's just about the only score one, so it ends there. But what a lot of people don't know about me is that when I went to Harvard, my dream was to sing on Broadway. I didn't have dreams of being a tech executive, but I got to Harvard and I got rejected from the music major, crushed my dreams. But luckily, I found a new love in psychology and marketing. And after, I was able to get a job at Ogilvy and Mather, a top marketing agency in New York City. Now, when I got there, on day one, everyone, all the entry-level people, got assigned a job, and everyone else got staffed on these glamorous television and magazine campaigns, except for me, you guys. I got staffed on a brand new team called digital marketing, and I was pissed off. I called my mom, I cried, I was like, I'm in a dead-end job, Mom. I want to be with the celebrities. But then 2 years later, I was leading a team of 20 people, and all those other people were still getting cappuccinos for celebrities on movie sets. And it was around then that I started getting phone calls, emails, text messages from my brother saying, hey, I started this little thing called the Facebook. I could really use someone who knows about digital marketing. Translation. He needed someone who would work for free. That is actually what he meant by that. I could read between the lines. But I thought, you know what? I'm up for a new adventure in life. Let's give it a try. I'll go out there for 1 year and help him. And I headed out to California, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be so glamorous. I've never been to the Silicon Valley before. I think I called it the Silicon Valley. And that's what I found when I got there, you guys. Super not glamorous. It was these guys coding around the clock, 24/7 in this house. But what I did see, they had this incredible passion, a burning passion. They really knew that they were going to change the world and change the way we all communicate. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to be a part of this incredible startup. 1 year became 10 years, became an IPO, became 2 children out in California, and it was incredible to have that kind of front row seat to how every industry changed thanks to social media. Next slide. Sorry, I don't even know if I'm controlling the slides or someone back there is, or like God is controlling the slides, but there we go. All right, people always ask me, why was Facebook so successful? And over the years, I've put together kind of my hypotheses, my 3 reasons I think Facebook did so well. The first, we launched with exclusivity. There's a lot of noise out there, you guys. If you're starting a company, I know the instinct is just to open up your website or app to everyone on day one, but there is something to be said about launching with a little scarcity, a little exclusivity of not opening it to everyone at day one. That's what we did with Facebook. We opened it to a few schools, then a few more. People would beg us, please give us Facebook, and then we would give it to them, and we knew that it would be successful in that new country or that new area. The second, we encourage people to use their real identity. Now, 12 years ago, when Facebook started, nobody used their real name online. Everyone used nicknames, pseudonyms, and I think we all know what happens when people hide behind anonymity online. They say hurtful things, hateful things. They leave terrible reviews of our businesses that they would never say to our face. People, they just don't behave when they're allowed to hide behind a computer screen. So what we did on Facebook, we required people to use their real name, and suddenly, wow, what a concept. When your name and your photo are up there, suddenly you behave a little more when you speak. And we felt, you know what, if people were going to have the benefits of this megaphone we were giving them, they also have to be responsible for what they're saying and be responsible citizens. So that was a huge game changer for us. But I think the final thing that actually made the biggest difference was a focus on company culture. It was really clear to me from the early days with those guys in the house that they wanted Facebook, no matter how big it got, for everyone to feel like they were a hacker. Even today, if you go into the Facebook headquarters in California, 10,000 people, you still feel like you're walking into that little startup that I started with. One thing that we did in order to keep this feeling alive is every month we did something called a hackathon. Now, this is not going to sound fun to you guys at all. You have to give me a little creative license here. Every month, we would pull an all-nighter at the office. Wow, who wants to pull an all-nighter at their office? No one. But these were fun. There was usually a DJ, food trucks, there was a bar. And the only rule was that you could not work on anything that you did in your day job. It had to be, for that 12 hours, a passion that you always had in your heart that you never gave yourself the time to focus on. Now, most of the projects were completely ridiculous, you guys. One of my favorites, an engineer decided that he was going to hook up an iPhone to a trampoline. And so you jump on the trampoline, that became your lock screen on the iPhone, and you had to recreate the exact same jump to get back into your phone. People jumped for hours to get back into their phone. I think it was the worst invention that I ever saw in my life. But what ended up happening because of that is suddenly there was a culture where people weren't afraid. They weren't afraid to fail. They weren't afraid to look silly or stupid, because I guarantee no matter what you were working on, you cannot top the guy next to you who's hooking up an iPhone to a trampoline. So nothing you could possibly do would be silly or stupid. And what happens when you free people up, when you take away that fear of looking silly or stupid, is that you get amazing things from people. In fact, at every hackathon, there would be one or two ideas that was so good that we would actually make them full products on the site. So I want to tell you about two hackathon projects I did that I'm particularly proud of. The first, I started an 80s rock cover band with fellow Facebook employees. Our name was Feed Bomb, and our motto was, "We play for free and you get what you pay for." So that tells you about how good we were, but we had a lot of fun, and we played at all the hackathons. But my second project, I was really interested in television, in the intersection of television and social media, and I thought, could I create a television network that ran entirely on Facebook? So I was like, let's give it a try. I'm going to call it Facebook Live with Randi Zuckerberg. And I took over basically this little conference room. I interviewed all these engineers all night long. What are you working on? Like really groundbreaking stuff. And you guys, 2 people watched, my parents. That was it. It was super unsuccessful. I went home, I was like, Facebook Live is dead. Or so I thought, because a few weeks later, I got a call from Katy Perry's manager saying, we would really like to launch Katy Perry's world tour on your Facebook Live TV show. And I thought, okay, here's the part, Randy, where you call them back and you apologize and you say that's not a real TV show, it was a hackathon. But then I was like, what would my male colleagues do? Would my male colleagues apologize for having an awesome idea? No, they wouldn't. So I was like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to fake it till I make it. And I called them back and I said, you know what? That is a brilliant idea. Facebook Live with Randi Zuckerberg is a very reputable television show, and you should absolutely launch Katy Perry's platform there. And then I was like, oh, shit. And luckily, the male engineers at Facebook also really wanted to meet Katy Perry, so a lot of them helped me out. We created Facebook Live. There you can see Katy Perry came to Facebook. Her world tour sold out in minutes. Facebook Live was a huge success, and from there, here you can call in. We have a lot of other celebrities that came through. Jessica Alba came through. We have politicians. Keep going. I think this is a decorative clicker, by the way. So I wanted to actually, before I get into that, maybe you can go back to the last one. The last photo in there that I wanted to show you, if you look at the bottom, one of the other things we did with Facebook Live is I always like to interview other entrepreneurs in the community, like young entrepreneurs who are building something really fun and cute. So these two guys came in, and I was like, hi, welcome to Facebook Live. What's your startup? And they were like, Twitter. And I was like, cool, good luck. I don't know, that sounds kind of weird, but good luck with that. Yay. Well, they did pretty well for themselves there, but that was, I think, back in 2007 or 2008. But the thing that was most exciting about Facebook Live is that I was not a coder. I was not a hacker. I didn't take a single engineering class in high school or college. I never would have thought that I would stand in front of a room of you guys and say that I was a hacker. But just a few weeks ago, Facebook rolled out a tool called Facebook Live across every single person's profile in the world. That means that that little idea that I had at a hackathon is now available to 1.5 billion people around the world. So I don't want anyone in this audience thinking that you're not a hacker, you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a creator, because I am just like you. We're the same person, and if I can create something that 1.5 billion people around the world are using, any of us can be hackers. The only difference is that I was put in an environment in Silicon Valley where I had the flexibility to try 12 new things every day. And you know what? When you try 12 new things, 11 of them are going to be terrible, and one of them is going to be awesome. So that's why you got to try. And so today, I want to take you through some of my favorite social media sites, and then maybe a few trends that I'm seeing that can help us. So, all right, hit it. So this is kind of like my social media Avengers, and we don't have sound for you guys today. Usually there's some fun superhero noise that comes with this. Here are my top 5 kind of vital stats. So first, we have YouTube. Bet you didn't think I was going to lead with that one. YouTube, video is my personal passion, as you saw with Facebook Live. And the thing that I most love about YouTube is that for all of our businesses, it lets you tell such a powerful story through video. So whether you're giving a behind the scenes into your business, your company, there's so many really powerful things you can do with video. Next slide, please. But by far, my favorite thing to do with YouTube, I don't know if you guys have heard something called Rickrolling. And this is where I really wish we had sound for you today. Basically, it's when you send a very kind of corporate-like sounding email to people, and when they click on it, it plays, next slide, Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, okay? I know that's like ridiculous, but there you go. All right, next slide. All right, Facebook, obviously I'm going to say this, and it's not just because I'm a shareholder in the company, but I am, so please get on Facebook if you're not. But a few things that I really love about Facebook, next slide, is the ability to really create your own media company inside of a platform. Now, here I looked at kind of some of the top pages here in Mexico. You can see this page has almost 40 million people who like it. That means like they could be showing their own telenovelas. They could be showing their own content. They could be broadcasting. They could have other brands buying ad time on their Facebook page with that many eyeballs. Next slide. Of course, Sally Fields, she gave her famous Oscar speech, "You like me, you really like me," so she's a big fan of gathering likes on Facebook, obviously. Next slide, please. LinkedIn, I feel like, is kind of the poor stepchild that no one talks about, except for this week when they're bought by Microsoft. Now everyone's talking about them. But for me, it's a really powerful tool. Next slide. LinkedIn, I think for me, I get more engagement on LinkedIn when I post about business things than every other social media site combined. Just think about it. On LinkedIn, you know exactly where people work, how much money they make, what position they're in. You can actually get to exactly the right people. They also now have an influencer platform on LinkedIn. So if you blog, if you write a lot, they can feature your posts and so that they're seen by a lot of people. Next slide, please. Instagram, of course, if you're doing in a business or doing something that's highly visual, this is a terrific platform. And I looked for actually a few top Instagrammers in the area that I love to follow. So next slide. This is a wonderful father and son gallery. They actually, on Instagram, they go on father-son weekend trips almost every weekend, and they document it through Instagram here in Mexico. Different photographers. This is a great place if you're in the travel industry, in fashion, in art. Instagram's such a powerful tool. Next slide. But if there's no other reason to join Instagram, you guys, join it for this profile, Hot Dudes Reading. If for no other reason, 718,000 people want to see hot dudes reading on Instagram. And finally, Twitter. If you're doing a live event, there's really no place like Twitter. Some of the other sites with the algorithm, even if you're posting, people might not see it for a few hours. So even Mexico City Live does tweeting and responds to people, which is very exciting. And of course, click here to learn more. This joke. Yes, the sound. Woo! All right, click here to learn more. Yeah. Now, see, I just rickrolled all of you guys right there. Okay. Woohoo! Yay! Thanks to the magic person of mystery who found the sound for all of us. All right. I want to take you guys back in time, and I'm not just talking about like back in time to when you took film photos and brought it to somewhere to develop, and they're like, see you in a week. I want to go back in time to cave paintings, all right? But really, nothing has changed in our society because, next slide, please. Now we communicate like this, which is essentially we've turned to cave paintings. So we're going to start with a little emoji 101. Being with all of you guys, wait, back. I'll cue the slides, okay? Being with all of you, next slide, makes me feel like this. And I don't see anyone doing, next slide, this, which makes me, next slide, that, okay? So now that we've all passed Emoji 101, let's get a little more complicated here. Next slide, please. All right, if you see that, you might think like, oh my gosh, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Sorry to whoever's translating me. I don't know if that's even back, please. Or you might think that like, wow, honey, don't forget to feed the dogs. Like, there's a lot of translation, so that's why we're getting into Emoji 201. Next slide. All right, let's try this one. To be or not to be? That is the question. To take biceps against a tsunami of troubles, and by opposing end them, to skull, to snore. Nailed it. Woo! All right, next slide, please. Okay, wow, this is a really tough one. Okay, not up. I have no idea. Okay, next slide. Woo! Rickroll! Okay. You guys are like enough with the rickrolling, Randy. Like, what are you even doing here? I'm like walking around with a decorative like clicker and like rickrolling people. All right, next slide. So without further ado, I want to take you through some of my top tech trends that I'm seeing in business that are so exciting to me. Now that we've done kind of social media emoji 101, I think we're all ready to take a look at some of these trends and to see, hopefully you guys walk away here with something that inspires you for your own lives and your own businesses. All right, we're gonna play a game called Entrepreneur or Employee. All right. If you use Tinder, you know how this works. Do not raise your hand if you use Tinder. This is a business conference. You guys keep it to yourself. But I'm gonna show you some pictures, and I want you to kind of like in your mind be like, entrepreneur, employee. All right, next slide. Let's start with a really easy one. Entrepreneur or employee? Entrepreneur. Okay, now it's gonna get harder from here. Next slide. All right, this guy, this fine-looking man in a suit. Do we think he's an entrepreneur or employee? What do you think? He's an employee. You guys, this is a real company that, no, back please. I'll cue the slides, okay? This is a real company that exists called manservant.com. In fact, I'm gonna. Manservant.com is an actual company that got VC funded, okay? So that means anyone can get investment. So this man is an employee. Next slide, please. Okay, what do we think? Entrepreneur or employee? Entrepreneur. This is a very smart entrepreneur in Colorado capitalizing on the new legal marijuana business there. $2 billion industry. All right, next slide. All right, a woman enjoying her retirement or an Uber driver. I don't know. Okay, next slide. All I know is do not get into that car, you guys. That is not safe. But as you can see, the lines are incredibly blurred between who's an entrepreneur and who's an employee. Next slide. We live in a new workplace now, a new workplace where entrepreneurial skill sets are really valued. So even if you're sitting here today thinking like, gosh, Randy, I'm not ready to quit my day job and go have my own business, there are a million ways that you can be entrepreneurial even inside of the company that you work in today. Next slide. The new workplace is creative. Next slide, please. In fact, a lot of companies are actually, they're valuing these creative skill sets. I talked about hackathons at Facebook, but you can find a hackathon in virtually any industry that you work in. I attended a hackathon recently that was for a pet food company where there were kittens and puppies on every table while we hacked. But they have for the bridal industry, fashion, music, you name it. And if there's not one in your industry, why not throw your own? It doesn't have to be an all-night thing. Gather your team, gather some people from your industry and throw a 3 or 4 hour think-a-thon, create-a-thon. You would be shocked at the brilliant ideas you guys will come up with if you just take these phones, put them aside for 2 hours, and give yourself the opportunity to be fully creative. Next slide. Even companies like NBC are taking on things like this. NBC just recently rolled out a program across their company where any employee, kind of like Shark Tank, they can come and pitch their idea to the top executives at NBC, and if they like it, they'll give those people money and a team to actually make that idea possible inside of NBC. Next slide. So if you want to hire entrepreneurial people, you can't just get that regular paper stack of resumes that you always get. You got to hire people who are using social media in cool entrepreneurial ways. So take this guy here. He launched his entire resume through Amazon. So it says like only one left in stock, order soon, add to the cart for pricing information. The next one that I'm going to show you is a 6-second Vine video for Twitter resume. So next slide, please.
Journalist, strategist, manager, deadline Jedi, idea machine Dawn Sith.
So again, 6 seconds, entire resume. So if you want to have an entrepreneurial organization, you need to look for people in an exciting new way. Next slide, please. The new workplace is also mobile. This is exciting for me. I host a radio show, and actually just this week, I interviewed someone who brought in this device. It was like an iPad on a scooter. And he told me, I don't know if anyone's seen it on Modern Family. It was featured on an episode there. And he told me he lives in New York, but he goes to work every single day in California because this little iPad on a scooter is in California. So he sits at home in New York and he goes to meetings. He eats lunch in the cafeteria with his coworkers out in California. He's there in the office. He's on an iPad. So next slide, please. Next. When I think of working mobile, like I think that it's like this, like that's very romantic, but next slide. The actual reality is that it's a lot more like that, huh? Next slide, please. But there's a lot of great organizations who are starting to realize that when you bring in remote people, this is giving an amazing opportunity to women, to people who need to be home as caregivers. And next slide, this great organization, Power to Fly, teams up with media companies who are fine to hire remote workers and actually pairs them with great employees who need to work remotely. Next slide. The new workplace also is on demand, especially sitting in New York City where I sit. You can get honestly anything at any hour or day of the night on this phone. Next. You can get a massage on demand. I recently booked a massage at 11 o'clock at night to come. I was like, oh my God, this is the best world ever. Next slide. You can get someone hair and makeup through an app to come to your office or your home to get you glam ready for that meeting. Next. And we also already went over the fact that you can book a manservant on demand. Now, what these guys are supposed to do, by the way, is compliment you every 10 minutes. Otherwise, it's they're not doing their job, hold your handbag, etc. Next slide. But I don't know how many of you guys watch Downton Abbey. That's one of my favorite shows. But I recently wrote a book called Complicated because even though I'm the biggest fan of technology of anyone, I love tech, I love trying it, I think it's making our lives so much better. At the same time, though, every new invention comes with complication, comes with some kind of a cost. So when I see this new economy that we're all creating where you can get anything on demand, where on this phone you could order anything, a car, it's cheap, it's easy, someone's paying. And are we creating an economy that's upstairs, downstairs, like Downton Abbey, where everyone in 10 years from now is either going to be serving or being served? So I think we need to be responsible consumers of this new economy and realize that when we're getting things easy and cheap and convenient, that there is someone who's paying for that. Next slide. All right, what's going on? Either it's a broadcast from the government or a ride at Disney World. I don't know. All right, what is it? Next slide. Thanks. It is a podcast by General Electric. Sorry, that was super cheesy, you guys. I fully admit it. Now, notice, next slide, please, that I did not say that that was a podcast sponsored by General Electric, brought to you by. I just said General Electric created a podcast. The same company that's bringing us appliances, like refrigerators and microwaves, is now creating original content. And that podcast, next slide, they created a podcast about alien life, and it was downloaded 3 million times the first month that they brought it out, which means that if even a company like General Electric thinks that they need to be a media company, we all need to start thinking like media companies. In fact, if you reach one person online, congratulations, you're a media company, and you need to start thinking that way. Next slide. I think Red Bull is the #1 business at thinking of themselves as a media company. This is a live stream that they did on Facebook, and they actually broadcast a free jump from outer space on Facebook. It was the most watched live stream ever on social media when they did it. And they had this guy, they live streamed it. Spoiler alert, he lands. It's gonna be okay. But what's so amazing to me about this is that Red Bull, I mean, they have 30, 40 million fans on their Facebook page. All of a sudden, every company picked up their heads and thought, oh my gosh, Red Bull is now getting more views than every sports television network combined. And they're just doing it totally on their own. And that's why now you see almost every major brand at events like the Olympics, the World Cup, because everyone knows that they need to be a media company now. Next slide, please. But you don't need to broadcast from outer space in order to be successful. Next. Carlsberg launched just a billboard for their beer where anyone could go up to it and tap the keg and pour themselves a beer. And you know that every person who went up to that took a selfie with it. Next. or even just reacting to pop culture current events. Arby's tweeted out, "Hey Pharrell, can we have our hat back? Hashtag Grammys." So again, sometimes it's not even about doing fancy, costly things that wins on social media. It's just about having a sense of humor, reacting. Next slide, please. Of course, it's also about being first to use a new technology in your area. So Diane von Furstenberg had her models walk the runway, and this is like the closest to the runway I'm ever going to get in my life, wearing Google Glass. So that meant that the world, it was broadcasting what it was like to walk in Fashion Week from the perspective of the models themselves. That meant Diane von Furstenberg, she wasn't at the mercy of Vogue or the fashion bloggers to say what they thought. She was just going to give it right to the people and let them have that experience. Next. Now, I talked about emojis. That is the way that pretty much like any young person communicates today. I am not ashamed to admit that I've had entire conversations that were only done through emoji. Burger King decided to come out with their own chicken fries, emoji keyboard. Next slide, please. And even the tourism board here in Mexico came out with their whole own like emoji concept keyboard. So I guarantee anyone here start thinking about kind of that visual way. Next slide, please. Of course, though, everything is complicated, so I don't want to be a Debbie Downer about everything, but I like to always balance when I talk about opportunity that presents itself, also the downside. So we now live in this world where we all have a megaphone. We can reach millions of people for low cost. We have these exciting tools for our business, but we also live in a world where you can ruin your reputation in 140 characters. So I'm about to show you a tweet. It's very offensive, and I just want to warn you in advance. And it was a woman who had an incredible career in PR. She got on a plane to Africa to go do some client work. She tweeted out a very offensive, inappropriate tweet, and by the time she landed, she did not have a job anymore. So you can please show that. So, I mean, and this is a woman who for decades was really reputable at the top of her career. Next slide. So I just want to, it's really important to use these tools responsibly because just like you can make your business in 140 characters, you can also do a lot of damage in 140 characters. And so I always entreat people. I think people think, okay, I don't have time for social media, so I'm just going to have like an intern, a college student, someone young in my office run social media. But this is your prime vehicle to millions of people. This is your career, your reputation, and no one cares if an intern tweeted that for her. It went out from her account. So I say that because everything is complicated. Next slide, please. The maker movement, this one is really exciting to me. I'm going to take you through a few of the things that I'm seeing people making on 3D printers, and hopefully you guys can see that anyone can be a maker. So next. Next, this is a kayak that was printed entirely on a 3D printer. Next. Shoes made on a 3D printer. Smartphone cases. Shoes with smartphone cases in them. See, you can clearly see where my mind is. This is a bridge that is 3D printing itself. It's in the Netherlands, and this bridge is 3D printing first a prototype, and then after people start walking on it, it's going to make an entire bridge that can accommodate bicycle and pedestrian traffic. Next. In China, there are 3D printers that can print entire houses in a single day. So imagine what that means for poverty, for homelessness. Berea just came out with a pasta printer. Imagine what that means for hunger around the world when we can start 3D printing food. And in similar lofty goals in Taiwan, you can 3D print your selfie onto the top of a latte. So that's totally up there. But everything is complicated again in a world where you can do all these amazing things. Next, you can also 3D print weapons. So again, everything's complicated, right? A world where there's all this incredible opportunity, but I'm not gonna leave us on the down. So next, doctors are doing incredible things with 3D printing. Through 3D printing, they're able to test out really complicated surgeries so that they're able to do them very well on people. Next. This is an ear that was created in a 3D printer, and it's supposed to hear even better than our ears. Amazing. Next. Okay, so let's say that you're still like, Randy, I'm not gonna make an ear on a 3D printer. Well, you need look no further than the site Etsy to see that literally anyone in the world can be a maker, and I'm gonna take you through some of the weirdest stuff that I found on Etsy. A backpack for dogs. You guys, this is someone's making money doing this. A soap for people who love gaming. A Saint Bernie Sanders prayer candle. A magic wand. Okay, it says it's $250,000, but if you provide your own stick, it's free. So it's just a stick. A Barbie that you can shave. Yikes. Underwear. This is someone took their used underwear and turned it into a purse. Okay, if you look closely, you'll see it has 18 five-star reviews. I don't know any businesses that have 18 five-star reviews, but there you go. So, and when I was little, my parents used to take me to Renaissance fairs where like there was jousting and turkey legs. It was super fun. But now that's not cool anymore. Now people go to maker fairs where you learn to fly drones and build robots and program and show off your inventions. Now, every single sound effect that you heard in this trend was done by this band, and all of their instruments were made on 3D printers. So really exciting when you start thinking about all the things that are possible in the maker movement today. All right, next. The next trend I want to take you through is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I have 2 little boys, and I get asked a lot about technology and parenting, which I'm sure is a topic that a lot of people in this room are thinking about too, especially if you have a daughter. I really encourage you to start them early with a love of technology, entrepreneurship, business. And so today I wanted to talk you through a few of my favorite ways of introducing children to technology, also some complicated things too, inventions that I think cross the line. And because I'm here, I hope you guys will give me a little license. I'm going to try to deliver this in Spanish. So please forgive my very poor high school Spanish pronunciation, but I'm gonna deliver this to you as a nursery rhyme in Spanish. So next slide, please. Eeny, meeny, miny, dar, enseñar al niño programar. Darle tinker, primo, ludo, no será ningún boludo. Sorry, I know this is a business conference. Tinker ayuda a programar computadoras con robots, dragones y videojuegos disparadoras. Primo y Puzzlets usan tejas y bloques. Enseñar programación de 2 golpes. Todavía no se pueden comprar. Serán un hit. Apurate y ordenar. Eeny, meeny, miny, dar. Enseñar al niño programar. ¿Cuántos idiomas hablará el chiquite? Inglés no sirve. Enseñale friki. Robotiki da robots para dominar. Programar para controlarlo. Vas a alucinar. Play hace lo mismo y sus robots para acariciar. Quien no quiere amigos, se puedan reiniciar. Mattel ofrece el Activity Sion porque quien necesita imaginación. Eeny, meeny, miny, dar. Enseñar al niño programar. Piensa en la gran campo fiesta que tendrán en vez de siesta. Super thumbs down for all the moms. Next. Heads up y tabú sospechosamente similar, pero Ellen endosó heads up, entonces Hasbro ningún juicio iniciar. Bankaroo, ves si tus niños hacen sus deberes. ahorrar en dólares tiempo ante una pantalla y serán mejores seres. Pero tu chiquito solamente será tecnorati si le compras este fabuloso iPod. Ini, mini, mini, meso. ¡Qué locura es eso! Te juro que eso es de verdad y nos hace siempre recordar. Niños deben programar y tecnología es estupendo, pero también darle sol y jugar libre corriendo. Tienes que decidir lo que es mejor para tu cría, darles la tech, pero con sabiduría. Gracias. Woo! Sweating. Woo! All right. Thank you. All right. Woo! Got that over with. Now we can rest easy up here. I feel like I need a shot of tequila or something. Okay. Next slide, please. Virtual reality. This is one of the hottest new trends. I recently came from the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, where everyone was talking about this next. Oculus Rift is probably the #1 in this, also Samsung VR. This is a demo of what you can expect in the Oculus. Most people today are using virtual reality for gaming, for entertainment, but I love it for what we can do for business, for medicine. I've talked to doctors who are able to cure PTSD and different phobias through virtual reality by putting people in a setting in virtual where they can conquer their fears. I've talked to realtors who are able to show someone a barren plot of land and then with a virtual reality goggles show someone what a finished, decorated house will look like on that land. Next slide, please. Now, I talked about the maker movement. Some enterprising person at Google thought, well, the Oculus is very expensive and very bulky, so I'm going to make my own out of cardboard. They called it Google Cardboard. I think it's like $15 and you can slide your phone into it. And maybe not even $15. It's like a piece of cardboard. But next slide, please. But I like to think, not to toot my own horn, that I was an early adopter of this because I had the Viewmaster when I was a little kid. So there you go. Next. But Viewmaster just announced they're coming out with the Viewmaster 3.0 where you can slide your phone in, and there you go. Next slide. Even cooking. A lot of restaurants are starting to show how you can cook in a virtual setting. So this is an app that actually walks you through step-by-step buying the ingredients and cooking. In fact, here in Mexico, you can actually take a virtual reality tour of Patron's headquarters they had drones flying around, and you can watch it in virtual reality. You can also, they have content for kids. I am able to buy myself, to all the moms out there, 20 extra minutes in the morning by putting this game into Google Cardboard for my son and watch him spin in circles for 20 minutes trying to find that little mouse's hat. But again, everything's complicated. That's sort of the theme of my talk. And I also recently saw this next virtual reality game, which simulates fighting and killing people. So again, as a mom, I think a lot about violent video games, what that means for our society. And this takes it up tenfold from violent video games when you actually simulate that. So virtual reality is an area I'm very excited, and if anyone here is doing anything cool in virtual reality in your business, I would really love to hear about it, and you can tweet me and I'd love to chat more. Tech lifestyle. I have 2 trends left for you today. Tech is no longer just for the geeks. It's part of all of our daily lives. I think we've all experienced a Fitbit, a Fuel Band, a Jawbone Up. This is me most of the year in New York City, freezing. But thanks to the smart home, I can now control my temperature from wherever I am. Even our chairs can yell at us. Every single thing in our homes can yell at us. This chair text messages you if you're not sitting up with the proper posture and gets you to sit up properly. Even our manicures can be tech savvy. There was recently an exciting kind of college-wide search for the most tech savvy manicure. A few that I found, there's one that helps people stop smoking. Your nails can detect certain motions. There was another one that actually, if you dip your nail into a drink, it can change color if there's date rape drugs that are present in your drink. Yeah, really awesome. But by far, my favorite is this one, which glows if you're near a free Wi-Fi network. So you never have to miss a moment to post on Facebook ever again. Now, the ticker, now we're getting into complicated territory here, guys. You're like, yay, a happiness watch. I want to be happy. But the ticker, it counts down how many minutes you have left in your life. That's what it does. So although maybe the next time you're in a bad meeting at work, you can actually be like, sorry, look how many minutes of my life you just wasted. So there you go. And all right. If you're squeamish of needles, this is where to look away for a minute, because a startup in Europe found a very invasive way to give their employees access into the office. Can you imagine, first of all, like, let's say you were going to give your notice in 2 weeks, and then you were like, no. But I mean, that's really complicated. Alarm clocks. Who wants a boring old alarm clock when you can have a super tech-savvy one? This next alarm clock wakes you up with the odor of fresh croissants and coffee. You can download different cartridges, and there you go, Coca-Cola, grass. Or you can use this next alarm clock, which, let's say you're sleeping peacefully, which never happens in my house. Again, I have 2 little kids. Your alarm goes off, and this is no ordinary alarm, because when your alarm goes off, if you hit the snooze button, you will be donating money to charity. You put your credit card in when you downloaded that alarm, so it depends how charitable you're feeling that morning. So let's say I wake up and I'm like, I should go for a run today. I need to get some exercise. I can open the Nike app. And in that app, if I post I'm going for a run on Facebook, anytime someone hits like, it cheers for me in my ears like a marathon running squad. But let's say you need more motivation than that. Let's say you need zombies. Well, I have an app for you called Zombies Run. I am not kidding. When someone told me about this, I was like, that is even stupider than that trampoline iPhone hookup. What this app does, it puts you in the center of a story where zombies are chasing you. You are the last person left on Earth, and you have to run as fast as you can to save the world. I thought this was so dumb, and then I ran my fastest mile I've ever run in my life. So that is dedication to fitness. Woo, more cheesy jokes from Randi. Okay, but let's say that's not enough motivation for you. If you need more, I have Gym Shamer, which text messages your friends if you don't go to the gym, so they know how lazy you are. And if you need even more motivation than that, I have here a scale that tweets your weight. Is that the worst invention ever, you guys? I think so. But on the fun side, some developers in Europe came up with a little app for the phone that teaches couples how to dance together. Each person puts a thumb on either end of the phone, and it guides you through all of these fun ballroom couples, awesome dances. So tech can be a wildly fun and complicated part of all of our lives. But my final trend for you guys today is a trend on unplugging. Now, as I said, I'm a lover of technology, but I also know that in our lives, we have to find balance. The pendulum has swung so far to being always connected that I don't know how any of us are capable of being creative, of putting our best selves forward, of being patient, of having new ideas. I mentioned before that I have 2 young boys. Here they are. Thank you. Shameless ask for awe there. And I want them to grow up in a world where we have a healthy relationship with technology. We were recently back in Silicon Valley. One of the self-driving cars passed us on the highway, and I almost peed in my pants, you guys. I was like, that car has no driver, and it is on the highway. And then I looked around and every other car was like this, and I was like, none of the other cars have drivers either. And they are not the self-driving cars. So we need to have a healthier relationship with tech. My older son, one of his friends recently came over to our house, saw my laptop and went, "Grandpa!" And his mom said, "Oh, we Skype so much he thinks his grandpa lives inside the computer." So again, this is the world that our children are growing up in, this perfectly reasonable to have relationships entirely through screens and never see people eye to eye. I have on my radio show, I'm often pitched for companies who want to be on, and here's a few that have shown me we really need a digital detox. This one, the breakup app. If you can't be bothered to break up with someone, you can do it through an app. You can click begin the end, and there you go. Or if the Bro app, if you don't even want to be in a relationship in the first place, you can download the Bro app and like pre-program on Sunday 6 texts that will go out to your woman for the rest of the week. So like on Thursday, she gets like, "Hey baby," and like she's like, "Oh, he's thinking of me," but like he sent it on Sunday. So yeah, we need a digital detox. Or this app called Run Pee. There was only one purpose to this app. This app is good for when you're in a movie theater and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to pee," and but I don't want to get up. I'm going to miss the best part of the movie. You open this app and it says, "Oh, you're watching Jurassic World. Nothing good's going to happen for the next 6 minutes. Go pee." That's it. That's the only use case for this app. When I was doing research for my book, Complicated, I decided I'm going to ask women what they would give up for a year before they'd give up their phone for one weekend. Just a weekend, right? We could part with our phone for a weekend. Well, almost everyone said they'd give up chocolate for a year. Almost everyone said coffee for a year. I don't know how. Almost everyone, you guys, said they'd give up wine for a year before their phone for a weekend. But most shocking of all, 70% of women said they would give up sex for a year before they would part with their phone for one weekend. Now, I don't know if that's a commentary on the phone or their partners. That's a totally different keynote right there. But at that point, I decided we need to stop asking women what they'd give up because I don't even want to know the answers. Even hotels now are having digital detox packages. 5 years ago, if you went to check in at a hotel and they were like, "No Wi-Fi," you'd be like, "Peace out. No, I'm not staying here." Now, they're like, "No Wi-Fi. Pay extra." And you're like, yes, it's brilliant marketing, really what it is. And there's even an industry around products for digital detox. This is a glass. We all have that friend who you go out with them and like the phone is on the table, like they're just waiting for someone better to contact them. Well, now you can get them a drink glass that only stands up straight if the phone is docked underneath it. So there you go. A few of my projects that I'm doing now, I have a children's book called Dot. Again, I talked about how starting kids early is really a big passion of mine. Encouraging women to go into tech, into STEM, into STEAM is a huge passion in my life. Of course, I have 2 boys, but Dot is like my daughter. It's a book that I wrote about a little girl, and it's actually going to be a television show on NBC in September. So hopefully, thank you. Hopefully you'll see it, you'll get it soon here, but I hope it will encourage more young girls to get excited about tech. I also mentioned I have a radio show, my book, Complicated, but I started off today by saying that my dream in life was to sing on Broadway. I thought I gave it up with all of my tech endeavors, but about 2 years ago, I got a call in my living room at home from a producer of Rock of Ages on Broadway saying, "We saw some videos of your band, Feed Bomb." Remember our free band, you get what you pay for? And they were like, "Would you like to come star in a lead role on Broadway?" So I got to accomplish my dreams, and I figured the best way to end my time with you tonight is with a song. So here we go. Look at this phone, loaded with apps, Siri and Facebook and Apple Maps. Looking around here, you think, wow, she's got everything. I've got iPads and Androids for poking. I've got a Fitbit that's truly divine. I've got a BlackBerry. No, I'm joking. But I long to live life more offline. I want to go where the people go. Bookstores, or somewhere that's still existent. There I would meet them, and then we would, what's the word? Talk out where they date as they should. Somewhere where Tinder means only would. Out there in front, wish I could be part of that world. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. Mucho gusto. Thank you. Thank you.